Yeah, Dwayne, how you doing?
Good, Michael. How are you doing?
Doing well. Welcome. Shout. Is that what it says? Or is it, am I missing?
Out. Yeah, yeah. I always get it mixed up. It's like backwards on my screen here.
Oh,
Yeah.
I can read it.
Yeah.
Shout. I'll do it.
So you're having a good busy week, huh?
Yeah, great week. We just had a screening yesterday that it played really well. It's like, I was talking to someone about like having making a movie is like, raising a kid over the course of like 3 years, where it like starts off as a little baby, it's this little lump of clay. And then, kind of grows out, and then you're like sending it off to college, you're sending it out into the world. And it's like feeling
Yeah.
of just like, sharing it with the world. And like, it's like, call me, tell me how the world is.
Michael, it's intimidating for a lot of people to tackle something as a sequel, to come in and do the sequel. I feel like you really pulled it off. I feel like you advanced and built on the universe into a really great movie, and it's a beautiful movie. The scenes are great. Was it intimidating when you signed on to it?
No, honestly, I mean, Conjuring 3, talk about intimidating. That was like taking
Right.
reins from James Wan, the master of horror, like a living legend in our time, one of the great filmmakers out there. That was intimidating. Honestly, this was a real pleasure. I got to say, I love what Corn did with the first movie. I think he's so incredibly talented and such a great guy and director. I came in it with such a love of the Nun and such a fear of the Nun. I was like, the Nun's so scary and such a horror icon. I was just so excited to jump into it. This was, every movie has challenges, but this was really just a pleasure to work on.
Well, don't look behind you if you're scared. Okay. So
Is she
just
behind me? Is she behind? Oh my gosh.
yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you that. Hey, Michael, there's a lot. I write from a faith and family perspective, and so there's a lot of faith mixed into all of the Conjuring movies, but especially these two. You want to talk about that? Kind of diving into there. The good people, the people we're rooting for, are people of strong faith, and it's actually prayer that helps them defeat this evil in the end. You want to talk about
Absolutely.
that a little bit?
100%. I was raised Catholic. I think that, faith is it's so powerful. It's so powerful for the series. And it's something where, I know I've had struggled with my faith, had questions about my faith. I think that is something that, you haven't, like, that's a universal feeling. And I think a lot of times in these stories that is that the faith is the armor that our characters wear, and it is their weapon, and it is the power. And I think that there is something so wonderful about that, because that is, the world can be so chaotic, and they're and so complicated, and the being able to fall back on that is really reassuring. Our characters are each on their own journey of faith, and with Sister Deborah, it's literally just a question of belief. She's a novitiate, basically a nun in training, and she doesn't even know if she believes. She doesn't, she's questioning
Right.
the principles of like Catholic faith about blessing the wine, and for Irene, it's a much more personal question of faith. It's the faith that she has in herself, and who she is and who she comes from, and there's questions of identity there. And I think that I think that these are universal issues, and I think people really connect with them.
Yeah, and I always appreciate when they do have a struggle like that they show that good is always more powerful. You know, um, in the end, I mean, there's always a struggle, but in the end, it always triumphs. So that's very affirming in my book. Um, any any location? I mean, the locations in this are gorgeous. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We shot the whole movie in the south of France, and it was really beautiful. It was hard to like find an angle that was not beautiful in that country. I think that we found this great. The boarding school was probably my favorite location. It actually used to be. It was it used to be a school. It was like this rundown school, and massive property. It only had like 2 bathrooms in the whole place. It was like, and they were so tiny. It was terrible. But the school is like, it's like hundreds of years old. And then before that, it used to be a convent. And it is just so old. And it's funny because in our story, we said it used to be a monastery. But it's so funny that it's like in real life, it was just a convent. It wasn't even that far off from reality.
Right.
Of course, like I think in France, like if you go far back enough, it's like every building used to be a convent at one time or another.
Yeah. Well,
But it was, just had all this great history to it. And I mean, that's one of the things that I think that I always feel like in horror movies, like texture, having great texture. I just love that. Even like going back to something like Seven or something where, that's a movie that has such a big impact on me. And the texture in that movie is so exquisite. You really can just like the lighting and the texture and in just the production design. And we had a great production designer who found us great locations, and it just really, really like looked awesome.
Well, I appreciate your time. I'm going to wrap up. I was just going to say about the texture. I felt that way in the story too. It was much more than just, the screaming, or whatever jump. There were so many layers to it, and I appreciated that. There was drama. There was a little bit of relationship and stuff like that, action at some point. So I thought it was very entertaining.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for the time. And I'm so glad you liked the movie.
Thank you. Have a great week.
You too.